Welcome to another Figuring Out Japan video. We sell all the coolest Japanese collectibles straight out of Japan, and you can find out more details about us in the description of this video, including our Facebook page and our online store. So in this video, I will be showing this book here, which is The Art of Super Mario Odyssey, as you can see there. So let's get all the other stuff out of the way and get straight into it. So firstly, it does actually come in this clear sort of case that you can see there. And this is the actual book. And it's very big, as you can see. It's actually, I believe, 367 pages. So it's absolutely massive. And it is, as the name suggests, an art book. So it's not a game guide, it's not a strategy guide, it doesn't tell you how to get the moons. It is of the art of itself of Super Mario Odyssey, which I think is actually a great thing, because when you think about it, you know, strategy guides, and I used to collect them myself, you know, they kind of ruin the surprise if you think about it, because you want to play the game, you want to have fun, you want to enjoy. And, you know, for difficult game, like for these, you know, it's very difficult to get all the moons. But you know, you can still, so you probably want to use a game guide at some point. But the thing is, you can get it online. You can get, you know, pretty much since the dawn of the internet, people have uploaded, you know, primitive but informative guides. You know, they don't have all the pictures and diagrams, but they're still, you know, they're still pretty good. They tell you what you need to know. And of course, with YouTube now, there's a lot of videos of people showing, you know, how to complete the game. And especially with smartphones now, it's so much easier. You know, 20 years ago, you'd have to fire up the computer, have to dial into the internet, which would cut the phone line. The computer is probably in another room to where you're playing video games. So, you know, I think over the years, the use of strategy guides has kind of dropped to a point that, you know, you really don't need them. And, you know, I suppose I used to collect them more for just, you know, the beautiful pictures and artwork. But I'd rather get something like this because, you know, you don't really have this stuff online, or, you know, you can't get this information unless you actually buy the book. Whereas the strategy guide, you can get that information one way or the other. So I've just showed you the first section, which is, what was it actually called? Artworks. So this is the second section, which is actually the main section, which shows a lot of the background artwork for the game. Now there's so much content here, so I've just picked out certain pages here. So as you can see, just the level of detail there, some of the sketches of Peach. I don't know how well you can, probably a bit hard to see on the camera, but you can see a bit like anime how they sort of do, like a senior designer will do the main proportion sketches that then some of the more junior people can design. But you can see even just, you know, her bouquet, some of the different designs for that. And yeah, just some, you know, how much leg do they show? What sort of dress should they use? There's just so many of these like minor detail things that you don't really think about playing the game. And when you go through this book, it really makes you realize and appreciate how much effort goes into here. So you can see again, just the light, even the light poles and the pattern on the bridges, and even the little hat stands, just all the different, again, I don't know how well you can actually see that on the camera, but it really makes you appreciate the amount of effort that goes into producing a game like this. So here's some of the concept artwork for Cappy. You can see the different facial expressions, and just some of the different, you know, designs. There's more of a sort of cutesy penguin look. You know, they experimented with different colors. Even here, he sort of looks a bit hungover with his big black eyes. So I think most of you will agree, you know, Cappy is pretty cool, pretty cute. that you can just see the process that goes into that. So the first few pages here sort of go more into like the characters and stuff like that, before you actually get into each level, and it is broken down by level. So there you can see the Odyssey, some of the design sketches for the Odyssey. So they're looking at design, they're looking at proportions, just lots of different details that go into that. You can see it's quite complex. It's certainly an ambitious project for, Super Mario, which is usually a somewhat, even though they're very large, complicated games, a lot of the elements inside Super Mario are usually quite simplistic. But that's definitely not the case in this game. You can see I actually love some of the concept work from this level. It actually reminds me of an exhibition I saw, which was called, I think it was called 20 Years, The Art of Pixar or something like that. I think it was a world exhibition that traveled around the world. And if you saw that exhibition, some of these concept artworks kind of remind me of that. Seeing some of the early sort of painted sketches of Monsters Inc. and that kind of thing is really cool. So again, here you can see the different designs for the bus stop. More of a sort of cartoony look, more of an Egyptian look. And this is obviously more of the final look that they went with towards the end. And even here in Donk City, you can see just all of the different designs that they used for the sewer covers. Obviously the layout of the city, the different bridges, some of the different flags there. But again, how many of you actually stopped in the game to stop and notice those things? But that's the attention to detail there. And there's another page showing all the graffiti from Donk City as well. It's pretty impressive. Just background features that you probably didn't even notice or stop to sort of look at. So there's some of the graffiti there, some of the designs. Someone probably spent like months, or maybe not months, but couple of weeks just like designing all this and then choosing like which ones they were going to use. So Pauline, again, some of her facial expressions, it's quite similar to what they would do in the anime industry. So it's a really just a beautiful book, and so varied. You have like just rough sketches to sort of more refined artistic kind of artwork, and they use these kind of concept artworks for movies. There's some beautiful Star Wars books of these kind of images, obviously for TV shows and things, and it's really great that Nintendo have actually put all this together for people to see for a video game. And especially since the strategy guide, it's a similar size, similar price, at least retail price. So to get something like this with all this sort of extra feature, it's just beautiful. You can see the animation for the cutscene. You can see all of the storyboards for that. And then concept to actual final design. And you can see all the designer's notes. Unfortunately, it is only in Japanese. If you can't read Japanese, obviously you're not going to understand that, but if you can, you can understand all the notes. I think it's kind of self-explanatory anyway a lot of the time, the notes that they're saying. Look at that. It's amazing, like the same guide from like sunbathing on the beach to something like that. Look at the moon, the dragon, just absolutely stunning. So would definitely highly recommend this book. If you're a Super Mario fan or a fan of the game, I'd say it's a must-have. But even if you're into, if you're actually like a graphic designer or you work in, the video game industry or, I don't know, like special effects industry or something. There's just so many different like ideas and inspiration that you can get, and the worlds are so diverse. So, you know, the range of drawings that you can see, again, here we can see some more like industrial type drawings through there. So it's really impressive. The only thing perhaps the only sort of complaint, if you could call it that, with this book is it's not cheap. I mean, I understand a huge amount of effort went into producing it, and Nintendo need to, you know, break even or make a profit on it. But, you know, it's not a cheap book. As I said, the retail price is probably about the same as the strategy guide anyway. But because it was only released in Japan, you know, to buy it, you have to buy it from, for example, us, Figuring Out Japan, or, you know, another online seller from Japan. So, you know, there's selling fees, there's shipping fees. You know, this weighs well over 1 kilogram. Look at even the different stained glass there. So it is going to cost you, it's probably going to cost you more for the book than the game itself. But, you know, then again, these Super Mario games don't come by very often. You know, it's like, what, once every 5 years. And, you know, I know a lot of people who went out and bought, you know, the game guide, the amiibos, the special edition Switch, etc., etc. So, you know, when you think about it from that perspective, I think it's justifiable. It's also worth noting, I mean, it would have been in Japanese anyway, but there aren't any interviews. There's also no poster, which is something they usually include. But that aside, I mean, this book is just absolutely stunning from cover to cover. As I said, 367 pages.